Nigeria's 2024 budget is still a subject of national interest, which has sparked a national conversation. The budget reflected government's priorities and ignited important debates about the nation's prospects, from bustling markets to social media forums. Nigerians are dissecting budgets, voicing their opinions, and demanding transparency and accountability. Talking about the security sector with the budget, there are concerns about resource efficiency and the need for a multifaceted approach that includes social and economic development as well as military solutions. There are still questions about the quality and sustainability of schemes on infrastructure, as well as calls for greater accountability and public involvement in infrastructure development. Nigerians acknowledge the importance of investing in human capital and are concerned about the effectiveness of existing systems and the need to significantly improve the quality of education and health services. Ensuring effective implementation and targeting the most deserving Nigerians remains a critical challenge. Welcome to the second part of the 2024 budget and its implications on our program, Policy Focus. I am Lydia Odijochi. You're welcome to the program.
It's new, it's fresh, it's all about policies and strategies. Watch out for NIPSS Policy TV programs on NTA News 24. Tune in on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, Star Times Channels 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703. Miss this and miss out on policies that will affect you and our country. Join us.
In our last episode, we featured seasoned public affairs analyst Jide Ojo on the 2024 budget and its implications on Nigeria and Nigerians. We now bring you the concluding part of my conversation, where Jide highlights the importance of efficient use of resources and prioritizing sustainable projects that can deliver long-term benefits to Nigerians. Take a look. Let's go to another aspect now. Recently, Nigeria was accorded the awful, I would describe it as awful, distinction of being the poverty capital of the world. Coming from the World Poverty Clock of 2023, 71 million people are said to live in extreme poverty in Nigeria today. And according to the National Bureau of Statistics, in July 2023, a total of 133 million people are classified as multidimensionally poor in Nigeria. Now, do you think the 2024 budget has the potential to change this narrative?
I hope so, but I don't believe so. There's something between hoping and believing. How do you move people from poverty to prosperity in a situation that we have described earlier on, where there's high prevalence of corruption? The people you want to remove from poverty are stealing your funds. Look at the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. Remember, the federal government said it will pay 15 million people 25,000 naira for 3 months.
35,000 naira.
25,000 naira for 15 million households for 3 months. That's October, November, December. But look at what has happened to Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, where we learned somebody moved 44 billion out of the funds of National Social Investment Program in 4 days. Another is embroiled in 37.1 billion fraudulent allegations. That's the former minister. We also have the new minister, Bete Edu, facing corruption allegation of 585 million and other sundry allegations. So this is humanitarian ministry and poverty alleviation. Listen very well. That is humanitarian ministry and poverty alleviation. How can you alleviate poverty when you are stealing the people blind? The conditional cash transfer is opaque. They allegedly spent 3 billion naira to build social register in 1 month. 3 billion. You want to build social register. And multi-million naira consultancy fee was just forked out to cronies. 3 billion. So how do you want to lift people out of poverty? And how much are you going to pay these people? 25,000. But you have helped yourself to 44 billion, 37.1 billion, another, and so how that's why I said I hope. But in truth, the situation on ground is not inspiring. Because to move people out of poverty, you need to make conscious efforts to improve the economic climate. Now, look at the removal of fuel subsidy. Do you know that there is a report or research output that says about 10 million people have fallen into poverty between May 29 and now because of the rising cost of living? So you remove fuel subsidy, the price of PMS, which is petrol, moved from 170, 200 naira to 670 naira. So look at food inflation. How many people can eat 2 meals or 3 meals? Everybody is just gasping for breath. Even me seated there talking to you, I know how my life has been impacted negatively. Many children are dropping out of schools because their parents can no longer sustain them. Many people who learn a particular trade cannot apply those trades because of the rising cost of living. So you see a lot of people, the quickest way they earn income now is to join the Okada club, commercial cycling. And how much can they make from commercial cycling? You are not the only one doing it. There are hundreds of you. So at the end of the day, after the money for repairs, money for fuel, you only will go on with 3,000 naira. And God help you if you have a family of 5 or 7. So how will you feed them? Are you not going to pay rent? Are you not going to pay electricity bill? Are you not going to pay security fee? So I do not believe that we are on the pathway to exiting this poverty capital of the world. Not so fast, not under what I'm saying. The compressed natural gas buses that the president promised us since last August has not been fulfilled. This is about the 6th or 7th month. One single compressed natural gas buses is not on the road. And yet we are told, oh, if we are able to deal with that, they will buy 3,000 CNG buses and, so that they will be able to reduce cost of transportation. But not one is on the road as we speak. So even electricity cars, electric power cars and buses, none of them is on the road. And so when you look at the rising cost of living, the cost of rent, the cost of food, the cost of accommodation, the cost of even education, health, look at how much people are paying for school fees before Tinubu assumed office and how much they are paying as we speak. So rather than having higher standard of living, we are having high cost of living. And even the so-called middle class, many members of that class are dropping to the poverty level. So a lot still needs to be done if we want to turn things around.
Okay.
That's why I wrote in my column in the Punch about the excitement I have about the commencement of operations of Dangote Refinery, hoping that it will be a game changer and we'll be able to have steady supply. We'll eventually have reduction in the cost price of a liter of fuel, and that will also reduce the cost of doing business. Because right now, there is something called ease of doing business. You cannot, I mean, assuming you are not a government worker, go and get a shop at any of the markets and look at how much you have to pay for rent. You still have to pay security. You still have to pay for waste disposal. You still have to pay for water. You still have to pay for electricity. So your profit margin is reduced considerably. And many of those market men and women are living on credit facility from microfinance companies, from cooperative societies and all of that. So people are just resilient. That's why you still see us when we put powder on our faces, we still look like we are enjoying. But people are suffering and they are smiling. Like Fela Anikulapo said in his one of his songs, suffering and smiling.
Let's go back to insecurity, which Nigeria has been battling with for years, and it has been affecting our economy. Now, with the allocation of 12% of the budget to fighting insecurity, like you earlier mentioned, how optimistic are you that when the budget is properly implemented, it will help put the country's insecurity in check, looking at antecedents?
12% of budget of 28 trillion is huge. But when you look at the fact that military hardwares and other, small arms and light weapons that are used by the Nigerian military and police are not manufactured in Nigeria, but are imported from abroad, you will see that given the floated exchange rate, it pays into insignificance. So the purchasing power of our naira is weak. And while we may be very excited that the military and defense is having the highest budget, in actual terms, when you look at the purchasing power of our naira, you find out that given the fact that we are not manufacturing all these AK-47, AK-49, all these pistols and even tear gas, we are importing all of them. So when you do the exchange rate, you find out that what 500 million naira will buy 3 years ago, 3 trillion will not buy it in 2024. And some of these are consumables. For instance, when you shoot a tear gas or shoot a bullet, you cannot pick it and put it back. They are expended. So you have to renew. And that's why it's a huge challenge. If we are technologically advanced and we are able to produce many of these military hardwares within the country, we will have been able to save a lot of foreign exchange. There is a place called DCOM, Defense Complex in Kaduna, that is supposed to manufacture some of these small arms and light weapons. I don't know whether that company is still in operation.
It is.
So unless we are able to build similar industrial complex, military industrial complex, and manufacture many of these weapons locally, even when you vote 20% of your budget to defense and security, may be grossly inadequate. all these things like dating, military wears, all these military gears, we are supposed to be able to produce them. You understand? Shoes, belts, all these, military gears, helmets, armored personnel carrier, uh, treated vehicles, drones, CCTV, many other things that are used in the fight against insecurity, even scanners, scanners, and several others that are used, in fighting insecurity. If we are able to produce half of what we needed, we will save a lot of money. But situations where we are dependent on foreign procurement, foreign import, and you know what? Military procurement is not part of what can be disclosed. It's off limits. Even under the Freedom of Information Act, you cannot talk about military procurement, how much was expended in purchasing a baton, a rifle, whatever. So it's a closely guided secret. And did you know that even within the military and police, there is a lot of corruption that have been found? One general, major general, was convicted by military court-martial last year. He was in charge of real estate and all of that. And he was alleged to have stolen billions before he was found out. And they have to demote him and made him to return what he allegedly stole. And I think he's still facing prosecution. There was another case of 400 million naira that the Major General, the GOC in charge of Sokoto, some years ago was alleged to have even sent his boys to move cash of 400 million from Sokoto to Kaduna to deliver to someone. These 5 soldiers got to Kaduna, submitted their rifles, and disappeared with the 400 million. I'm not sure they've been found up to today. The Major General was found culpable, was demoted, and was punished, and all of that. So, I mean, you cannot say that there is no corruption going on in Nigerian police and Nigerian military. And this is not helping in the fight against insecurity. So if you are doing tra-tra with the procurement, under the guise that this is off limits, you cannot disclose, you cannot do this. So even if you put 20 trillion, they will still be giving you an excuse that it's not enough. So I think the solution largely rests on how we can start producing some of our military equipment needs locally. If we need to send people abroad to learn, to train on how to produce these things, at least let's start from somewhere. That decon, we can have such in other places where we'll be able to produce rifles, produce military, even if it's bulletproof vest, we are able to produce helmets, the boots, the belts, the wears, and the operational vehicles, the drones, the CCTV cameras, and several others. That will help to cut down considerably on the foreign exchange demands that will be needed to procure some of these things from abroad.
Definitely. Now, the increase in the size of the budget by the National Assembly from 27.5 trillion naira as proposed by the president to 28 trillion thereabout, don't you think this will render the inflation rate projection of 21.4% for 2024 unrealistic?
It's already unrealistic because according to National Bureau of Statistics, we're already 29% inflation. And I don't know how we want to tame that and bring it down when we are also looking at increase in the wages and salaries from second quarter of 2024. And also the fact that we are not producing much, because what can help you with taming inflation is production. And when you are not producing, you are just spending. Look at the 22 trillion ways and means that CBN under Godwin Emefiele was said to have used to support Buhari government. That is an abuse of a privilege. You are not supposed to go above 5%, but Emefiele just opened the gate and was pumping money into the economy without corresponding production. So our money became valueless, and all manner of sharp practices were said to have been loaded on that 22 trillion ways and means. So it comes back to the issue of corruption. And the best way to reduce inflation is production. If you can diversify the economy, attract foreign direct investment, get the country working optimally, get foreign direct investors to believe in the country, to bring their forex to invest and set up a business concerns, set up industries, factories that are able to reduce unemployment, you see the inflation drop and Naira will regain its strength. But situations where too much money is chasing too few goods, inflation will rise, price will also rise.
Definitely. Now, let's go back to the issue of borrowing. When you look at the 2024 budget and that of previous years, you might feel tempted to conclude that borrowing of all kinds have since become the mainstay of revenue generation by the government. Now, what do you feel would be the way out of this situation, aside what you said earlier?
Borrowing by itself is not bad. It's what you are borrowing to do. I borrow. I don't know if you borrow.
I do.
But most people borrow. At least that's why people join cooperative societies. That's why people do a susu. So people borrow. But do you borrow to marry more wives? Do you borrow money to drink the best of champagnes? Do you borrow money to do owambe? Or you borrow money to set up productive enterprise, to fix the infrastructure in a way that this borrowing can be self-generating? I am of the considered view that we cannot escape borrowing, but we need to keep it low. And I've suggested that there are better ways of funding our budget than borrowing. For instance, under Goodluck Jonathan, there was a Engineer Bunu committee that was set up to look at the abandoned federal government project. And they came out to say that over 11,000 projects by federal government is abandoned. Now, 11,000, as at that time, it will cost us about 7 trillion to fix this. And I've said time and again, let's evaluate these thousands of uncompleted projects. Let's prioritize the completion. Let's look at those that will add value and those that are just established for political reasons. The ones that are not going to add value, we can auction them off and use the funds we raise from those auctions to complete the ones that we need. I don't know if I'm making sense. So if there is a particular road that we know, completing this road will open the economy of those communities where the road is sited, We can do that and toll the road. People would not mind paying tolls. After all, we pay money to Agbero all over the places. So is it to pay 100 naira or 200 naira to coffers of government to cover the cost of maintenance of those roads and also to cover the cost of debts that you have incurred in building those roads that you should not be able to pay? But what we pay, what we borrow to do in most times are ostentatious lifestyle of our leaders. Look at how much is put in the budget for the office of the First Lady, for the office of the Second Lady, for the office of Vice President. They are spending 3 billion for renovation of the Vice President office or residence. They are building the new ones. They are all manner of ostentatious lifestyle. Look at what came out of Lagos State recently, where a whistleblower talked about the procurement fraud that is going on in Lagos. A unit of car in the pool of chief of staff to the Lagos State governor is said to cost 400 million naira. Just one car, 400 million naira. Lydia, do our National Assembly members, do they need a car that costs 160 million naira?
Not at all.
Each of them. Each of them. So these are ostentatious lifestyle, and you talk about borrowing money. So if you borrow money, is this what you are supposed to do with the money that you borrow? To buy luxurious cars? Did you know that we even bought a presidential yacht for over 5 billion naira? Is that what we need at this point in time? So it's not about borrowing. Nothing is wrong with borrowing, but what are you borrowing to do? You are borrowing to luxuriate in ego tripping. Look at how much we spent going to COP28. A report has it that over 2 billion was spent on air travel alone, over 2 billion. That's part of the use and cries that brought about the reduction that the government say they are reducing the travel cost by 60%. So it cannot be overemphasized that our government at all levels, at federal, state, local government level, need to really empathize with average Nigerians and reduce considerably their ostentatious lifestyle.
Thank you very much.
What is voted for feeding in the presidency is not sitting. Feeding, welfare. In US, if you are a guest of the president of US, the president of US will pay for the meals you eat in State House. They will send him bill. There's no free lunch. There's no free dinner. You are a guest of the president. Yes, they will admit you. You are his sister, you are his brother, you are his father. But the food that you eat, the chef of the State House will prepare. You will pay. But in Nigeria, a delegation of 200 people will go and see the president and they will all be entertained lavishly on the bill of the federal government. How do you run a country like that? And these people are people who can afford to feed themselves. They are not poor people. So we need to reevaluate our priorities.
Definitely, definitely. Now, we'll soon round up this conversation, but let me ask you, the projected gross domestic product, that's the GDP, growth of 2024 is 2.9%, which many argue is lower when compared to the population growth rate. How will you juxtapose the two?
Our GDP is not growing. That's the truth. We have very low GDP. And you see, the very nauseating very, very unpleasant argument is that we will say that our borrowing is still below the GDP, a permissible GDP rate of 5%. Do you know what it means? 5% of GDP is huge. So all this projection in the budget is just hollow ritual. That's the truth. It's hollow ritual. Is just put there for window dressing. Nobody believes in it. And I've said, and I've challenged the lawmakers, federal lawmakers. I challenge them. I challenged the President Tinubu that he never read the budget that he signed to implement. The members, the federal lawmaker never read the budget. Today, you hear the National Assembly members from the North are saying that they were shortchanged in the budget. But this is a budget you passed. How are you shortchanged? You never paid attention because the president submitted the budget late. He submitted the budget on November 29, and they have to pass the budget by December 30, and the president signed on January 1. Let me shock you, Lydia. The budget is over 2,000 pages. Over 2,000 pages. Even to read the 2,000 pages would take no less than, seriously, you cannot read 2,000 pages document full of figures in less than 2 weeks, even if you are not doing any other thing. But this is a budget they just passed within 1 month. So what they just read is general assumption of the budget, and they passed first reading, second reading, committee stage, they held the town hall, then they harvested thoughts. Many of those who attended that town hall never read the document they were engaging. And when they passed the budget with the increases from 27 trillion to 28 trillion, how many hours did the president or his handlers spend to read the budget, to know what was even inputted in that budget? They passed the budget on a Saturday. Sunday is a no-work day, and the president signed it about midday or evening of the 1st of January, which was even a public holiday. So we are just going to be flying blind. Everybody has put their own in the budget. So you just go to Ministry of Finance. Yemego, where is my own? You say you see page 1,555. That's where my MDA, my own department, my own agency's budget is in that place. Oh yeah, give us our money. And then lobbying will start. Don't forget that we do not have all the resources to implement the budget. So only very powerful executive secretary or DGs or ministers will get something for their ministry. If you are not well connected, they will keep telling you, we don't have money. Yes, it's in the budget, but you have to stay, you have to wait. And then 2 months, 3 months, nothing is coming to your ministry because the fund is not readily available. So all this issue of GDP and all of that, Dogon Turenchi. Is Dogon Turenchi.
Okay, finally, as we round off, what would be your opinion in regards to future budget proposals in Nigeria? What should be done differently?
What should be done differently stands for, one, we should obey the Fiscal Responsibility Act that says budget should be put before the National Assembly at least 3 months to the end of the year. At least. There's nothing that says budget shall not be submitted to National Assembly by September, so that they have sufficient time to go through and to invite all the ministries, departments, and agencies to do budget defense. What happened in 2023 is just charade. It's a sham. Everybody just they just mark time. They just do the routine. There was no proper evaluation of the budget. And if that should change, the president will submit the budget early enough so that the members of the parliament, the lawmakers, can have sufficient time to read through, to also debate general principles and assumptions, and then to start weighing how to, whether what the executive has proposed is in order, is not out of order, and all of that. And we should do less politicking with budgets. There's a lot of politicking around Nigerian budget. So it's an economic blueprint, but it's viewed with the lens of politics. That's why people arbitrarily just increase or decrease budgets of MDAs. So, and in time past, it has happened that some people, some ministers, some head of agencies will go and induce members of the leadership of the committees of the National Assembly to increase their budget. So we need to play less politics with it, keep the January to December budget cycle, borrow less, block all the revenue leakages, including put a stop to oil theft in the Niger Delta region. Not only oil theft, but also our illegal mining of our natural resources, which Nigeria is losing over $9 billion annually due to illegal mining of its solid minerals. So these are some of the ways that we, and then restructure the country to reduce cost of governance. Those will be my thoughts.
Thank you, Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst, for sharing your thoughts on the 2024 budget proposal or budget and its implications on our country, Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Do stay safe and stay blessed.
God bless you.
Depend on how the government will manage the funds or the policies of the country. And I believe they increase it very high by what they say for the betterment of the citizens. So I think if it will be judiciously used, the citizen will actually benefit from it. Though maybe not as expected, but it will to some certain extent the current action.
History, judging by our antecedents, you know that our budgets have never had any significant impact on the livelihood of Nigerians. Let me explain. For last year, the budget was like 20-something trillion, not up to this one, right? Are we together? Now, what is the impact? What is the impact on the generality of Nigerians? People are still wallowing in abject poverty. Some people find it even difficult to eat 1 square meal if one is a square, right? And then we find out that the inflation has gone up. They tell us it's 29 point something percent. But you and I know it's more than 35%. And then, of course, if you go to the market to buy something, the money for 500 naira, you go in the evening, it's 1,000. It's hyperinflation. People can no longer meet up with their needs. Cases of suicide here and there. So I don't think the budget, to my mind, has had a positive impact on the livelihood of Nigerians. However, I will not condemn this government because they are coming in newly. They are barely 7-8 months in power. Let's give them the benefit of doubt if they are going to do things differently. How? Of course, we have seen in the past regime or the past government, whereby these ministers have been accused severally of indolence, of mismanagement of funds and resources. And then the attention of the president is gone, nothing is done, right? But this one, at least, we can begin to have a semblance of maybe something might be done. We only hope it will be taken to the latter whereby someone is prosecuted, and if found wanting, jailed. Let it not be business as usual, whereby we raise dust, the hula baloo of saying that things, we've seen this, we've seen that, we've seen this person have amassed so much, this person has embezzled so much. But at the end of the day, nothing to show for it. We hope it's not going to be a charade at the end of the day.
Thank you so much for that insight. So my next question is how has advertising helped like the growth of the economy? How has it contributed to the growth of our economy?
Well, advertisement, to my mind, has helped. There are hitherto many products that some people don't even know about. Even if they know, some people, it might not be what they really want to buy or acquire as the case may be. But advertisement has helped tremendously in bringing the awareness and consciousness of people to fore or to bear, so that things that you ordinarily don't know, with advertisement or through advertising, you get to know them. New product.
Okay. 2024 budget this is the largest we have seen in some recent times, and personally, I think the value is about 28 trillion naira, which I believe it is just large because due to the fact of inflation. And I've come across some projects of some ministries, departments, and some agencies, which I believe some of them are new capital projects, while some are old projects that are ongoing. So for me personally, I think the budget is just large due to the numerical value due to inflation, and just to be optimistic, we hope it will transform into the lives of Nigerians and make the lives of Nigerians better.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Keep watching NIPSS Policy TV.
In the course of life, sometimes you are misunderstood. Sometimes you are underappreciated. You will meet it. You will naturally feel low as a human being. But in the tides and fortunes of men, God has, his final say. So enjoy the highs, learn from the lows, forge ahead, and keep your ultimate dreams in life in focus.
Hello and thanks for joining us. Today on Alumni Chat, we have Professor Shola Adeyonju MNI, who is the Head Public Affairs Department of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. It's good to have you, sir.
It's nice being with you.
Thank you. So, what has been your experience as a participant?
Well, my experience as a participant is a very interesting one. Interesting because mine was a peculiar case.
in the sense that I've been working in the National Institute, and I've been part and parcel of the training of many of the MNIs who have now come back to become directing staff. So it makes it uh, is is supposed to make it easy, but it wasn't exactly like that. So it was a very interesting experience. I had the cooperation of everybody, and some people that have passed through me, I had to pass through them. So it was like a role reversal, so to say. Yeah, but it was interesting.
Thank you. So, how has this experience impacted on your person and your career?
Well, what I discovered is that it is one thing for you to be a trainer. It's another thing for you to also be trained in the same process. And that makes a world of difference to me. It opened my uh, eyes more to acquiring more knowledge, but more importantly, knowing what it feels to pass through the 10 months of training as a member of the National Institute. It's the knowledge is not quantifiable. If you have not gone through it, you just cannot describe it. Because it gives you room to also, apart from the group dynamics, it also tells you to know how to cope with all sort of people, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hardworking, the lazy ones. You know, it makes you also to be able to go through stress and how to manage it.
All right. And what's your take on the narrative that ANI, which is the Association of the Members of the National Institute, is seen as an elitist group?
Well, I think it was just a circumstantial thing. Because when you can have many elitist organizations in the country. I mean, we have many. But tagging any as elitist may be due to the fact that, number one, the graduates of MNI are not many. That is one. But I think more importantly, why this is seen as such is that to be together for 10 months, day and night, gives you that level of bond that is permanent. Even though at the point of doing it, you may never know that you have that kind of bond. But by the time you are through, because it's like people that have gone through fire together, when they survive it, they know each time they make reference, they know where they are coming from. So that bond is very tight and it's permanent.
What brought about the circumstance of your coming to be a participant?
Well, one good thing about the senior executive course, particularly when you want to become a member of the National Institute, which MNI means, is that there is no any other way you can get it. It's not There is no honorary MNI anywhere, and the only way you can get it is to go through the course. And as a trainer, before, it doesn't really qualify me to be called MNI. So I had to go through the training. So go through the furnace, feel the impact, know what it means, and then you get your MNI.
What brought about the NIPSS Policy TV? It's a pet project, or let me say it's a brainchild of the DG. So what brought about you having Policy TV for the National Institute?
Well, you see, the issue of policy TV is a very interesting one. For so many years, I have been an advocate of openness to what the National Institute is doing. Because after joining the National Institute and looking at the volume of resources, looking at the volume of researches and results that have been conducted over the years, you discover that there is no problem you want to talk about in Nigeria that has not been touched. All any government needs to do is look back and say, give me your recommendations and implementation strategies. And the good thing is that when you do research reports in the National Institute, it goes with not, it doesn't stop at the level of just recommendation. It adds your implementation strategy. That is, how will you get that recommendation done? Which means that you're already thinking for government, which is the role the National Institute has been mandated to play, to be a think tank. So you're already thinking for government. But at the same time, you discover that government is saddled with a lot of things and sometimes they are distracted. So some of those recommendations may be lost on them. And even some of them sometimes may be practically good, but politically difficult for some governments. So, but what we discovered over the years is that look, these things, we are a national institute, not just federal institute. National institute means that it covers the whole country. We are supposed to be advising both federal, states, local government, and even the private sector. So, and then we now discover that some of these results don't even reach the stakeholders. That is one. Secondly, is that the argument, particularly for the Director General, is that look, policies are not discussed in open arena for so long. Even when you have policies being discussed on the television, it's just for some minutes because of other competing interests on television. So that was how we now came to conclusion that look, let's have a dedicated television station that will be for policy and strategy. And funnily, when the idea was mooted, it was like a child's play. And now we discovered that there is nothing, no television, no specialized television like that in the whole of Africa. So this is making history as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the things, legacies that we will leave behind. So where when there was a need, this was created. And this will now give us the opportunity to say, let's focus on policies, both government and public policies, to see how they could be discussed, how people can get more input. When people have more input, they are likely to know where we are coming from and where we are going. And when we do that, some recommendations will be coming out from that. That our research results also will be coming out to people, so that because people feel that there are some problems that researchers have not looked into. Meanwhile, they have looked into it, they have recommended what should be done. So I think this is the purpose that the television is aiming to serve. And good thing is that almost all the people that have heard about this have been giving us serious encouragement. I mean, people have been saying this is an idea whose time has come. And then the best thing is to just make sure we make the best out of it. So that's about the NIPSS policy television.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We have been talking with Professor Shola Adeyonjo, MNI, who is the head Public Affairs Department of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. Now we get back to the program. Stay with us.
Some Nigerians feel that relevant stakeholders and citizens should be engaged in public hearings, town hall meetings, and online platforms to ensure that the budget reflects the needs and aspirations of Nigerians. Nigeria's 2024 budget serves as a catalyst for Nigerians to engage in important conversations about the country's priorities and the path to a brighter future. By adhering to the principles of transparency, accountability, citizens' participation, and people-centered development, Nigeria can transform the budget from a simple document into a powerful tool of good governance and shared prosperity. Nigerians deserve clear, concise, and easy-to-understand budget document that fosters public confidence and allows for informed review. It's not just about the numbers on the budget. It is about building a country where every Nigerian feels valued, empowered, and hopeful for the future. It can only get better. That's it on the program. Thank you for your time. I am Lydia Odije Ochi. Goodbye.